an enthusiasm unknown to mankind, and it worked out. I mean, that's not very common. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is, you make it to NASCAR.
Yeah.
You're winning checkered flag after checkered flag. I remember, when I was starting out my career, single, even maybe first couple years of marriage, no kids, I was a very different person at that stage of my life than I am now. Not for better or worse, just I had different responsibilities. I had different accountabilities. You and I sort of talked about Carl version 1, Carl version 2. Introduce us to sort of Carl version 1, beginning of the career.
Okay. We talk about that passion. And I think that's important now looking back. I remember sitting talking to this woman. I was explaining, like I would do when I was 17, 18 years old, how impossible this was. It's like, I wasn't, I don't have enough money. I don't live in the right place. I'm never going to get an opportunity. And I'm pulling my hair out, and she looks at me and she says, "You're so lucky." I thought, did you not just hear what I was saying? What are you talking about? And she said, "You know exactly what you want." And I thought, what does that mean? I'm all lucky. She said, nobody knows what they want. And so for me, going back, version 1 was, I knew I wanted to drive these race cars. I would have done anything to do it. Okay. So, I lived on, I don't know, like $20 a week. I had it all figured out. I lived in my mom's basement. I ate at my friend Carl Jockey's house, his leftovers. Every dollar I had, we put into our local dirt track modified. So it was me and a couple of really good friends. And now looking back, I realize that it's very rare for 18, 19, 20-year-old people to come, and they would hang out and work on my car. They would loan me money. I never owned a pickup truck. My friends had real jobs, and then they would come help me to go race on Saturday night. And it was a crazy time because it was singular focus. Everything in my life started with racing. It was, eat right and stay fit so that I can do better, market myself, try to, every dollar I saved. And that version was just, I would call it just striving, just as hard as I could. And like I said, now looking back, I realized I had all these gifts. I had this passion. I had this amazing family, these friends. And at the time, it felt like this impossible struggle, but it really formed me. It made me appreciate so many things. Took me a long time to realize how much I should value them, but it was really special.
Do you think there was a moment in there where, or was there a moment in there where you were almost bumped off course? Maybe you faced adversity, or maybe you got bad advice, or maybe you just sort of, it wasn't working out at some point. How close were you to not being the Carl Edwards that's sitting in the chair today?
Okay, well, a couple things. So my dad's cousin is Kenny Schrader. So he's a NASCAR driver. Okay, so I used to tell people, I'm not born on third base. And I was so proud that I did all this work. And now I look back and I realize I was right. I wasn't born on third base. I was about 2 steps from home, right? I felt like I was working hard, but these pieces all fell into place. So, first thing, Kenny Schrader, when I realized that, 15, 16, I want to race, I said, man, can I just hang out with you? I'm going to come down to your shop. And he let me come to North Carolina. I lived in a little trailer outside the shop, traveled with the team. And I thought, I'll do this for a couple months. He'll put me in a race car. My career will take off. And so finally, after a month of work, and I got him to let me sit in his office, tell him my plan. And he said, this is not going to work, man. You need to go home, be a dentist or something. Do not race. It's impossible. I said, no. I got a plan. You're going to put me in this car. He said, no, that's not what's happening. You really want to be a race car driver? You need to go back home. You need to race. And so that was helpful, right? To not be handed something. I was given, not a handout, really a hand up. Yeah, some advice, other things like that. Back to my friends. I don't even know how to describe how fortunate I was with friends. And then you talked about adversity. So really, I guess I could point to, fast forward a couple of years. I had really laid the groundwork, had an amazing string of good luck to be able to win at our local dirt track, drive a couple different types of race cars. I was working for a gentleman named Mike Mittler in St. Louis. He was in the truck series. He owned a truck series team. That was the closest team to me. I would drive there every day in my little car and work and volunteer. And circumstances were insane. The driver at the time was Tony Roper. He was killed at Texas Motor Speedway. the team decided they were going to continue running, and I was going to get this opportunity. And this is 2002, maybe. And so this is all going according to my, albeit harder plan than I expected, but it's a plan.
Yeah.
And one night before the season started, I remember Mike Mittler did not come down to work on the truck. And so I thought, man, something's up here. And I went and, knocked on his door. He opened the door of the office, and there was another guy there, Larry Gunzelman. So it's Mike, Larry Gunzelman. I said, what's going on? And Mike said, meet our new driver, Larry Gunzelman.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my gosh, and Larry's a good guy. I thought, man, I've given everything I've got for like 4 or 5 years. And I mean everything. My friends had given everything, my family. My parents had taken their life savings out for this, to buy this one race car. It was crazy. And they said, hey, Larry's going to drive for the year, And I walked out of the office. I went and sat in the machine shop. Everybody had already left and gone home. It was dark. And I remember like it just happened. I sat there and I thought, man, it hit me that maybe I really am crazy. Maybe passing all these business cards, maybe all these people laughing at me, maybe they're right. Maybe this is just stupid. I was in this fantasy land, like this could actually work. And I guess I'm going to have to figure out what people do for real, because I don't have a plan. And I was all by myself. And then it hit me. I was like, you know what? Mike said Larry's going to be the driver for 1 year. And I was like, screw it. I can do anything for a year. I can crawl over glass backwards. I can do anything. Let's go. And so I got back up and said, I'm just going to work on this car or this truck. I'm going to support this team and we'll see what happens. Fast forward about 8 months later, I actually got the opportunity to get in that truck. And so that moment though, sitting in that shop, I literally almost quit everything. And man, that was close.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to those sort of bottom moments where sometimes you either stick to the bottom or you bounce off the bottom. You got to have sort of the right personal values to kind of triumph out of those moments. And we're going to get into some of those. And I think that's where we sort of pivot the conversation now to the Carl Edwards that most people know. Checkered flag after checkered flag after checkered flag, sort of version 2. But at this point, later in your career, you're married, maybe you're starting a family. How does, when Carl's professional circumstances collide with his personal circumstances, and the personal circumstances have changed so much, evolved, how does that start to affect you?
Okay, so yeah, I used to think, and we've talked about before, like version 1, 2, 3. And I know a lot of people probably feel those seasons in their life. I'm starting to see that it was, as Stephen Garber would say, a seamless life. I'm starting to see that they actually were all intertwined. But for me, I got in that truck. Mike Mittler put me in it. It was unbelievable. We went out, got hired by Jack Roush, and then it was like a rocket ship. I went from striving and trying to winning these races. And it was crazy. It was truly crazy. I felt like, I had gone into fantasy land. It was like everything I'd ever dreamed of. And, so now I'm this single guy, super successful outwardly, just having so much fun. Those first couple of years like a rock star on wheels. It was crazy. I used to go to the mall with my brother. I'd like, you want to go walk around the mall? And we just go walk around because people were like, "Cool." It was insane.
It's so funny because I've been out with you plenty of times in public now, and people are like, you look really familiar. You're like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Like, yeah, did we go to church together? No, that's not it. So that was a crazy time. And I'm so fortunate and grateful for the struggle and the work up to that point, because I think it kept me just grounded enough. But it got wild. I felt like I went from someone who had a pure passion, who wanted to do this, wanted to race, to after a couple of years of big success, I started to kind of feel like, okay, cool. Like this is who I am, and I'm somebody. And I remember, this is how silly I was. I remember at about 24, I thought, man, this is so easy, right? You work hard, you do these things. I was going to write a book on how to succeed. It was so simple. And at that point in my life, I measured success by all the worldly things, and it was fun, but there's a dark side to that.
Oh man, I love that. So that's kind of what I want to talk about next is people measure success differently. My background is in finance and the family office world, and if you talk to 9 out of 10 family offices, they say, "Well, our goal is to perpetuate our wealth and grow it from one generation to the next," and that's great. If you grow your wealth, you can do wonderful things with them through philanthropy and other endeavors.
Yes.
But my family always took a little bit different approach. We said the wealth is a good, it can be a blessing or a curse. We want to make it be a blessing. And how do you allow the wealth to become a blessing? That's the right values. So we always said as a family, look, perpetuating wealth is great. We want to perpetuate our values from one generation to the next. So when people would ask us, how does our family measure success? We never mentioned wealth or money or anything like that, or investment returns. We measured personal returns and the perpetuation of those values. So at some point, in your career, did your values change, or do you think they just sort of started to materialize themselves differently? So that, I want to ask you that. Then I want to also ask you, how do you measure success?
Okay. So glad you asked this question. I've been wanting to talk about this and I don't know how to actually frame it, but values is a good way.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think I even knew what my values were. I was cruising along, 25 years old, you can go back, you can look. I lost my shirt for 3 years. I'm posing on magazine covers. And I realize now I was operating off of what someone termed bad fuel, right? So I'm like,
Is that a NASCAR term? Is that a life term?
it might be like a Brent B. Shore term. So if you shout out Brent, yeah, it's hey, do people like me? Am I making money? Do I look good? Right? What's my reputation? And in the NASCAR world,
and so by those measures, you were 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
you were a success,
doing really well, and it was easy to quantify, right? Because it's you get the big contract, you actually have a scoreboard at the end of every week. You can, how many T-shirts are you selling? What's your Q score, whatever's going. And what happened, and I'm so grateful for it, is that you can't operate like that for very long before sharp people will find the cracks in your facade. And so I owe my competitors, I owe the media a lot, because there was a time in there where people started to go, now, wait a second, maybe this guy, a little bit of a phony. Maybe this guy isn't as great as he seems. And I remember this time, I was like, man, I'm great. What, why are they saying they don't know me? This isn't fair. This isn't. And then I was like, man, I'm kind of becoming a douchebag. And
wow.
And I had to step back and say, what's going on here? And so I remember I actually started to research this. What's happiness? What's greatness? What are these things? And somebody wrote, your reputation is what people that don't know you think about you. And your character is what the people closest to you know about you.
Amen, brother.
And I thought, damn, I haven't even thought of the difference. I'm operating 100% off reputation. I'm looking around going, if people like me, if things are, I'm good. And it was a huge reckoning for me. And nobody saw that. It probably didn't look that way. But in the middle of my career, I went from, hey, I'm the man, to, oh my gosh, to, okay, what do I got to do to actually be the person I want to be? And I started to see that all that money, all the winning, all that stuff paled in comparison to who you actually could be as a person. And so it's a huge lesson. And I owe everyone in the sport for it, because I wouldn't have figured it out on my own. I'm too stubborn. I needed to get beat down and questioned and go into that dark place to figure out, who the hell am I?
Hey guys, it's Gates. Thanks for tuning in. I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the show. I hear that all the time when I watch and listen to podcasts. And now that I have a show, I know the difference that it makes. It really does boost us in the algorithm. And the better we do in the algorithm, the better guests we're going to get, the better content we're going to be able to produce. This show is not mine, it's yours. So in a way, you're helping yourself. So please like, share, and subscribe, and God bless.